The stars over Threxos were calm. It was a normal day on the alien world. Sky ships flew above the tall crystal towers. Workers walked through glowing streets. Everything was peaceful. Nothing was out of place. Then, a signal came, deep in the mountains. Of Threxos, a group of alien scientists worked inside a hidden observatory. Their job was to study space signals. Most of the time, the signals were old and weak, just leftover noise from stars or dead satellites. But this signal was different. It was strong, too strong. A young alien named Selvin was the first to see it. He was just a junior technician, but he knew something was wrong. He stared at the screen. Lines of strange data moved quickly. The signal was focused, clean. It was not natural. It was artificial. "Supervisor," Selvin called. "You need to see this." An older alien, Varex, walked over. His long green fingers tapped the screen. His 4 eyes narrowed. This is not from any known system," Varex said. "It's moving fast, very fast. What direction is it coming from?" Selvin pointed. "To the map. Sector Delta 7. From the dark zone. No colonies, no traffic. Nothing should be out there." Varex's face turned pale. "Double-check the data. Right now." Selvin ran a full scan. The results were worse than expected. The signal was not only moving, it was getting closer. The panic begins. Within minutes, alerts rang through the observatory. More scientists rushed in. They tried to decode the signal, but it made no sense. The language was unknown. The pattern was strange, but one thing was clear. Something massive was coming toward Threxos. Varex sent an emergency message to the Threxan High Command. Within hours, the news reached the capital. Generals, counselors, and advisors filled the central war room. The Supreme Commander Dresk stood at the center listening to the reports. "What do we know?" he asked. A military officer stepped forward. "The object is large, over 10 kilometers long. No known engine type. No IFF signal. It's not one of ours." "Could it be a rogue asteroid?" asked another. "No, sir. It's flying too straight, too controlled." The room went quiet. Then someone whispered a word no one wanted to hear. Humans. Old fears return. The Threxans had heard of humans. Stories from the edge of the galaxy. Rumors passed between traders and spies. Most believed humans were still a small species, far from the center. But others said something else. They said humans were building warships, massive ones, silent, fast, and deadly, but no one had ever seen one, not truly, until now. Commander Dresk looked at the map. The unknown object would reach orbit in one planetary cycle. Just one day. "Raise the planetary shield," he ordered. "Scramble all fleets. If this is a human warship, we will not let it surprise us." The sky changes all over Threxos. Citizens looked up. A strange shadow passed across the sky. It was not night, but the light dimmed. Something was coming. From space, the object began to slow down. Thousands of alien ships rose to meet it. The defense grid activated. Missiles locked on. But still the object did not stop. It kept moving. Calm. Silent. Then it came into view. The shape was massive. Black metal, sharp lines, red lights glowing like eyes. The surface was covered in strange writing, Earth language, but no one could read it. The aliens stared in shock. It was a warship, but not just any warship. A Titan-class human warship. Silence. Before the storm, no one knew what to do. The humans didn't fire. They didn't speak. They just stayed in orbit, watching. "Commander," Dresk called for a communication attempt. They sent messages in every known language. No reply. They tried light signals. Nothing. It was like the ship was waiting. But for what? The alien world of Threxos was now a world of fear. For the first time in 100 years, the planetary shield was raised to full power. The skies above the capital city glowed blue. Fighter ships circled. Missile turrets were ready. Everyone waited. High above, in space, the giant human warship stayed silent. It did not move. It did not fire. But its size was terrifying. It looked like a floating city made of black metal, with giant towers and strange weapon systems across its surface. Red lights blinked slowly, like breathing, and yet, not a single message came from the humans. No greeting, no warning, just silence. Eyes across the galaxy, other alien worlds heard the news. Threxan deep space beacons had picked up the human ship's approach. Now the message was everywhere. Unidentified. Titan-class ship in Threxan orbit? Possible human origin. Some laughed. Others did not. In hidden parts of the galaxy, old leaders remembered stories about Earth, about strange humans who had once been weak, but never gave up. Now, it looked like the stories were true. Inside the alien council. Inside the great Threxan council chamber, leaders shouted at one another. Arguments filled the air. "They're here to attack," one yelled. "They haven't fired yet," another replied. "Maybe they're testing us, seeing how strong we are." "We must strike first." The supreme speaker, a tall, silver-skinned Threxan named Icaron, raised his hand. The room went quiet. "No one fires unless I say so," Icaron said firmly. "We must understand what we are dealing with." "But speaker," one general said, "this is a Titan-class ship. It could destroy us in minutes." Icaron turned to the screen showing the ship in orbit. "Exactly," he said softly. "And it hasn't." A closer look Threxan's scanners tried to study the ship, but every time they got close, something blocked them. The human ship was protected, not by shields, but by something more advanced. No data could be pulled from its systems. Its energy readings were strange, unknown. Still, one fact remained. The warship was 10 kilometers long. That was 5 times the size of the biggest Threxan battleship, and it was just sitting there, watching, waiting. The first mistake, some Threxans didn't want to wait. In the outer system, General Koran, leader of a powerful fleet, gave a secret. "Order. Send one drone close," he said. "Let's see how they react." Minutes later, a small probe flew toward the human ship. It didn't even touch the hull. As soon as it crossed an invisible line, the ship reacted. Human technology reveals itself a ring of red light spread out from the warship. It was fast. Too fast. The drone shut down instantly. No explosion, no warning. Its systems just died. On the surface, Threxan scientists screamed. It used an electromagnetic pulse, but stronger, like nothing we've ever seen. Koran stared at the screen. "That was a warning," he said quietly. Inside the human warship far above, inside the Cradle of Ash, the giant human warship, Commander Ilara stood on the bridge. She looked at the stars, calm and steady. Her officers worked around her. Everyone was ready. "They tested us," the ship's AI said. "I saw," Ilara replied. "Let them try again." "Should we respond?" Ilara shook her head. "No, not yet. Let them feel the silence." The silence speaks. The warship stayed in orbit. Still no messages, still no signs of movement, and yet its very presence was louder than any weapon. Alien families hid underground. Soldiers looked up at the sky and whispered prayers. Even animals stopped making noise. The world of Threxos was holding its breath, and the humans were still watching. The human warship still hung in space above Threxos like a dark shadow. No messages, no movement, just a massive shape, silent, watching. In the Threxan capital, fear spread like fire. The news played on every screen. Unknown human warship still in orbit, no contact made. Shops closed early. Families stayed indoors. Soldiers walked the streets in full armor. The people were afraid, and they had every reason to be. Inside the War Command Center deep underground, inside the Threxan High Command, the top military minds, gathered. The room was full of tension. Maps showed the warship's location. Dozens of small alien ships floated around it, like flies circling a sleeping monster. Supreme Commander Dresk stood at the center. He was known for his calm mind during war. But now, even he looked worried. "Status report," he said. A young officer stepped forward. "The human warship has not moved. Still in low orbit. Shields are holding. Energy levels stable." "No communication?" Dresk asked. "None, sir. We've sent 87 signals." No reply. "Any signs of life on board?" The officer paused. "Yes, sir. Heat signatures detected. Movement inside the ship, but it's strange." "Strange how?" "They don't seem rushed. No panic, no military buildup. It's like they're just waiting." Debate in the council later that day. The Planetary Council met again. This time the voices were louder, angrier. "They're mocking us," one councilor shouted. "They park a warship above our world and say nothing? We must attack now." But others were more cautious. "And if we attack and they destroy us in one strike?" asked Councilor Venn. "That ship is bigger than our cities. We don't know what weapons it has." "They may be peaceful," said another. "They haven't fired." "But they disabled our drone without firing." The room fell into chaos. Old warnings remembered. An elder scientist named Trell Varun stood slowly. His voice was quiet, but the room listened. "I warned this council 50 years ago," he said. "The humans were changing. They were growing." "We laughed," he continued. "We said they were weak, divided, small." He looked at the screen showing the warship. Doe. "They still look small to you?" Fear behind the scenes. In secret rooms, the High Command made backup plans, evacuation drills were prepared, shelters were stocked, nuclear fail-safes were armed. One general whispered to another, "If that ship fires just one round, our capital is gone in seconds." The other nodded. "Then we must make sure it never gets the chance." Commander Dresk's dilemma. Back in his private chamber, Commander Dresk looked at a screen showing the ship again. He zoomed in on the name painted across. The hull. Cradle of Ash. A cold name. A warning, maybe. Dresk sighed. He didn't want war. But if the humans forced his hand, he opened a secure line. "Prepare the orbital cannons," he said. "Do not fire. Just be ready." Inside the human ship. Meanwhile, inside the Cradle of Ash, Commander Alara stood with her arms crossed, watching everything from the bridge. "They're scared," said her second officer. "They should be," Ilara replied. "They may attack." Ilara nodded. "Let them try, but don't fire until I give the order." She turned to the large window, staring down at Threxos. "Sometimes," she whispered, "silence speaks louder than 1,000 guns." While fear spread across the alien world of Threxos, far above, inside the giant human warship Cradle of Ash, everything was calm. The ship was dark and quiet inside, like a sleeping beast. No panic, no shouting, only quiet steps, glowing screens, and calm voices. This was not just a ship. It was a floating fortress, a Titan-class war machine. Commander Ilara at the center of the bridge stood Commander Ilara. She wore a black command suit with the Earth emblem across her chest. Her eyes were cold, but focused. She didn't smile, but she wasn't angry either. She looked like someone who had seen many wars and never lost. She stood in silence, watching the planet below through a large glass window. Beside her, the ship's AI, a voice named Coral, spoke softly. "Alien ships remain in defensive positions," the AI said. "They have not attacked." Ilara nodded. "They're afraid." "Correct. They are also scanning us, repeatedly." "They're trying to figure us out," she said. "Let them try." The ship's crew, The Cradle of Ash had a small but elite crew. No more than 200 humans lived on board, but each one was a specialist. Soldiers trained in anti-gravity combat, engineers who could rebuild a reactor in an hour, pilots who could fly through asteroid storms. They didn't laugh. They didn't relax. They worked like shadows, fast, silent, deadly. Each of them knew the truth. This ship was built for one purpose: to show the galaxy what humanity could do. A weapon of message. In the deep heart of the ship, past locked doors and high-security halls, sat the core weapon system. It was a cannon, but not just any cannon. It could fire a blast strong enough to wipe out a city from orbit. But Alara had not used it. Not yet. Because this mission wasn't about destruction. It was about presence. Humanity had sent the Cradle of Ash not to start war, but to make a statement. The message room. Alara walked into a side chamber, the message room. There, walls were covered in holograms showing news reports from alien worlds. Every major species was talking about the human ship. The words were all different, but the tone was the same. The humans are here. Earth sends Titan to alien space. Unknown intentions, extreme power. Alara smiled slightly. She tapped a button and recorded a short message. This is Commander Alara of the human warship Cradle of Ash. We have arrived at Threxos. We are waiting. Decide who you are. Before we do. She did not send the message. Not yet. She would wait. Let the silence do its work. Tensions rise. Below, back on Threxos, the alien military watched the ship closely. We don't know what they're waiting for, said a general. They could destroy us at any moment. But they haven't. Yet. The high command was split. Some wanted to strike. Some wanted peace. But all were afraid. Every scan of the Cradle of Ash showed the same thing. Power, control, unshakable confidence. They were looking at something far beyond their level. A simple movement. Then, something changed. The human ship moved, just a little. One of its wings adjusted position. Its lights shifted color, from red to white. No weapons fired, no words spoken. But the small movement made the aliens panic. "What does it mean?" the generals shouted. No one knew, but everyone felt it in their bones. The humans were ready. The skies above Threxos were still quiet. The massive human warship, Cradle of Ash, stayed in orbit like a mountain in the stars. It hadn't fired. It hadn't spoken. But everyone below could feel its power. The alien military waited with shaking hands. Citizens hid underground. Leaders whispered in dark rooms. Fear had taken control of Threxos. General Corrin's gamble, deep in a secret command bunker, General Corrin stared at the screen. He was tired of waiting. "This is a threat," he said, "and threats must be dealt with." Other generals warned him. "The humans haven't attacked. Maybe they came in peace," Corrin growled. "No one sends a Titan-class ship for peace. They're testing us. If we show fear, we lose." He turned to his officer. "Prepare the cannon." The officer hesitated. "Sir, Supreme Commander Dresk has not approved." "I said prepare it!" Corrin shouted. The order was clear. A ground-based defense cannon locked onto the Cradle of Ash. One shot, it wasn't a full attack, just a warning shot. A beam of energy launched into space, aimed to miss the ship by a few kilometers. It was meant to send a message. We're not afraid. But it was a mistake, a very big one. The human response, inside the Cradle of Ash, alarms blinked red. "Energy weapon detected," said the AI, Coral. "No impact, near miss." Commander Alara stood slowly. She didn't panic, she didn't shout, she just said one word, "Target." The lights on the ship changed from white to deep red. Weapons unfolded from hidden ports. Massive cannons rotated, a swarm of drones flew out and surrounded the ship like a steel cloud. The silence was over. A single strike Alara didn't want to. Destroy a city, she didn't want war, but she had to answer. Select the source of the shot, she said. Coral confirmed. Coordinates locked. Power building. Fire. A bright beam shot down from orbit. It was fast, silent, clean. The ground cannon that had fired the warning shot vanished. No crater, no explosion. It was gone, vaporized in a flash of light. Message. That followed. Then, for the first time, the human warship spoke. Every alien screen turned black. Then a face appeared. Commander Ilara. Her voice was calm, cold, final. You fired first, we responded. There will not be a second warning. Then the message ended. The screens went dark again. Shock on Threxos. The entire planet froze. The alien commanders were silent. No one expected that level of power. No one expected such precision. One cannon gone, no lives lost, no other damage. It was not a show of war. It was a show of control. Commander Dresk reacts. Supreme Commander Dresk slammed his fists on the table. Who fired that shot? He demanded. General Corrin, sir. An officer replied quietly. Dresk closed his eyes. He may have just started a war we cannot win. Inside the cradle of Ashback in orbit, Alara stood once more at the front window. Coral spoke. Shall we prepare for full engagement? Alara shook her head. No. We've said what we needed to. She looked down at Threxos. Now let them decide. The warship in the sky had finally spoken. The humans had fired one shot, and with that single strike, they erased an entire military cannon without harming anything else. No lives lost. No buildings damaged. Just precision. The aliens of Threxos had never seen such control, and now the world held its breath. Fear. Across the planet, in homes and cities, screens replayed the warning from the human commander. You fired. First, we responded, there will not be a second warning. People sat in silence. Shops remained closed. Schools locked their doors. The warship above didn't fire again, but it didn't have to. The message was clear. Humanity had power, and it could use it without mercy. Supreme Commander Dresk responds inside. The Threxan military command bunker, Commander Dresk paced the floor. His face was tight with stress. He looked at the image of the cradle of ash, still sitting calmly in orbit, glowing red with its weapons unfolded. His officers waited for orders. What are they waiting for? One asked. Dresk stopped. They want us to choose, peace or total destruction. Sir, should we launch a full attack? Dresk stared at him. And get all of Threxos turned to ash? No. Analyzing the attack, Threxan scientists gathered around the crater site where the cannon once stood. But there was nothing left. No parts, no smoke, not even heat. It's like the cannon was erased, one scientist whispered. Another replied, not destroyed, disintegrated, atom by atom. We don't have anything close to this technology. One more added, this wasn't just a shot, it was a message. They all looked up at the sky and felt very, very small. Inside the cradle of Ashon, the bridge of the human ship, Commander Alara remained calm. Her officers moved like ghosts, silent, sharp, alert. The AI, Coral, gave another report. No further threats detected. Alien forces remain on alert, but no new weapons have been activated. Alara nodded. Status of weapons? All systems green. Main cannon charged. Drone fleet on standby. Stand down to passive mode, Alara said, but leave the lights red. Let them know we're still watching. The world watches. News of the incident spread fast. Other alien empires received the footage. Galactic news channels played the same headline across hundreds of systems. Human Titan-class warship disables. Threxan weapon with surgical strike. Some alien rulers became afraid. Others became curious. Many asked the same question. What does Earth want? No demands, no warnings, just waiting. But the humans didn't say anything else. They didn't send threats. They didn't ask for surrender. They didn't even reply to the hundreds of messages being sent. They just waited, calm, still, confident. New respect and new fear in the Threxan capital. Public opinion began to change. Some wanted to fight, but more and more people began to whisper, maybe we can't win. Maybe we shouldn't even try. Maybe it's time to listen. And that was exactly what Ilara wanted. For 2 full days, the skies above Threxos had not changed. The massive human warship, Cradle of Ash, remained in low orbit, weapons unfolded, lights glowing red, dead silent. The aliens below had stopped trying to scan it. They stopped trying to guess its weapons. They already knew the truth. This ship could destroy them, anytime it wanted. But it hadn't. And now, Threxos was asking a new question. Why? A council in crisis. Inside the Grand Council Hall, arguments continued. The humans haven't attacked again, said one counselor. Maybe they want to talk. Or maybe they're playing with us, shouted another. Look at what they did with one shot. We must strike before it's too late. Supreme Speaker Ikaron raised a hand. No, he said. We don't strike. We listen. But they haven't spoken. They will. Ikaron turned to the large screen, staring at the giant ship above. They've waited long enough. The first human message, that same hour, every screen on Threxos flickered, then turned. Black then, a human face appeared. It was Commander Ilara. Her eyes were calm, her voice steady. Her face took up the entire screen across the planet. People of Threxos, she said, we did not come here to conquer you. We did not come to destroy you. We came to see who you really are. You fired the first shot. We responded with mercy. Now you must choose. Will you speak to us with honor, or will you fall with pride? The message ended. Nothing more was said. The planet reacts. The silence afterward was heavy. For many, the message was terrifying. For others, it was humbling. She gave us a choice, one alien worker whispered. A real choice, said another. We're not defeated. Not yet. But if we choose wrong, they all looked toward the sky, and the fear returned. Commander Dresk's decision. Commander Dresk watched the message again. He had seen many battles in his life, but never like this. Never this kind of power, never this kind of control. He looked at the officers around him. We need to respond, he said, not with weapons, but with words. Back inside the cradle of Ash, Commander Ilara stood still on the bridge. The red lights were dim now. Passive mode was on. She was watching, waiting. The AI, Coral, spoke. Message delivered to all systems. Response not yet received. Ilara didn't reply. She simply stared out the window, down at the alien world below. They've heard us, she whispered. Now let's see if they're wise. The council meets. Again, for the first time in days, the Council of Threxos was calm. The shouting was gone. Now there was only quiet talk, careful words. Supreme Speaker Ikaron stood and gave a new command. Prepare a reply. We will not bow, but we will speak. And for the first time since the warship arrived, a signal was sent upward from Threxos. The reply from Threxos had been sent. It was short, it was careful, and it was received. Inside the Cradle of Ash, Commander, Ilara stood before the screen, reading the alien message. We acknowledge your presence. We are ready to speak, but we will not kneel. Ilara said nothing for a long time. The crew around her waited, holding their breath. Finally, she looked at her communications officer. Prepare a secure channel, she ordered. But not to Threxos, The officer blinked. Then where, Commander? She stared into the stars. To Earth. They need to know what we found. The hidden files deep within the cradle of ash in the command archives, an ancient file had been unlocked. Colossal, the ship's AI, had discovered it after the alien transmission was received. It wasn't just a reply, it contained a signature code, one that matched an old Earth database. The file name? Project Silence. Classified. Earth's forgotten mission. Long ago, before the warship had ever been built, humanity had sent probes into deep space. One of them disappeared near the Threxos system. Now, Colossal revealed what had been buried. For years, Human Probe 7 was captured. On board, language data, species maps, and human biology samples. Commander Ilara's face grew cold. They've had our data since before first contact? Yes, Colossal replied. They knew who we were. Lies from the sky on Threxos, Speaker Icaron watched his advisors carefully. He knew the truth was dangerous. The human probe had been found 50 years ago. The council had hidden it. They feared what would come if they told the people, and now that truth was rising. Icaron turned to his security chief. If the humans found out we took their probe, they may see us as liars. Or worse, thieves. They already know, the chief said quietly. Ilara's next move. Ilara stood in front of her senior officers. The stars outside the ship were quiet, but her voice was firm. They knew us before we ever met them, she said. They studied us. They didn't warn us they had our probe. And they shot first. She paused. They say they want peace. But do they deserve it? No one answered. She looked at the stars again. I want answers. A secret meeting that night, a private signal came from Threxos. Not from the council. Not from the military, but from a scientist named Yavex, the same alien who had once studied the human probe in secret. His voice shook as he spoke. I want to talk. Alone. No lies. I know what we did was wrong. But I also know something far worse, something even your warship may not be ready for. Ilara listened carefully. Coral confirmed the signal was real. She gave a quiet order. Set a rendezvous. Prepare a drop team. I'm going down there. A new danger. Rising in. The shadows of Threxos, deep underground, something stirred. A vault had been locked for decades. Now vibrations pulsed from beneath it. Something was waking up, and it wasn't human, and it wasn't Threxian. It was something neither species had expected. Commander Ilara stepped off the landing craft. The air on Threxos was sharp and dry. She wore her armored suit, and 3 armed soldiers followed close behind. They weren't here for war, but they weren't here for trust either. Waiting at the edge of a dark canyon stood Yavex, the alien scientist. His eyes looked tired. His voice was low. This way. Quickly. Before the others find out you're here. The forgotten facility. They moved fast through rock and metal, down a hidden path. Yavex led them to an old building, half buried under stone. The doors were sealed. He placed his hand on the scanner. The vault creaked open. Dust poured out. The smell of rust and something strange filled the air. Inside, lights flickered. Walls were covered in strange symbols. Ilara looked around, tense. What is this place? She asked. A lab, Yavex whispered. But not ours. And not yours either. Ancient machines. Alien. Tech inside the vault. Old machines stood silent. Screens blinked with unknown language. Strange devices were stacked in glass cases. Coral, Ilara's AI, scanned the symbols from orbit. These are not Threxian and not human, Coral said. The technology predates both species by thousands of years. Ilara turned to Yavex. Why did you bring us here? Yavex didn't answer at first. Then he pointed to a black door at the end of the hallway. Because something is inside there. And it woke up when your warship arrived. The warning Yavex explained the truth. Decades ago, when the human probe was captured, it activated something in this vault. Something old, something powerful. The Threxian Council ordered the vault sealed. They feared what might awaken. But when the Cradle of Ash arrived, the signal reactivated, and something began sending out a call. Not to humans, not to Threxians, but to whatever built this vault. The Black Door Alara approached the final chamber. The door was cold. Metal glowed faint red. Her hand hovered over the panel. "Is it safe to open?" she asked. Yavex shook his head. "No, but I fear it's going to open anyway, whether we're ready or not." Just then, the ground rumbled. Dust fell from the ceiling. The machines in the lab came alive. Lights flashed. Alarms sounded, and the black door began to slide open. By itself. What was inside, Alara raised her weapon. Behind the door was a dark chamber. A huge stasis pod sat in the center. Inside floated something humanoid, but twisted, ancient, and half-machine. Its eyes flickered open. Coral's voice came through. Her earpiece. "Energy readings are spiking. Unknown life form. Activating." The creature looked directly at Alara. It didn't speak, but Alara felt something in her mind, a voice, not in words, but in force. "You should not have come here." A signal. Across the stars at that exact moment, far above, the Cradle of Ash detected a signal leaving the planet. It wasn't going to Earth, and it wasn't going to Threxos Command. It was going deep into the galaxy, to unknown regions of space. Commander Ilara's second-in-command gasped. Something just woke up, and now it's calling for help. The skies over Threxos turned dark, not because of clouds, but because something massive was entering orbit. Commander Ilara stood inside the ancient vault, eyes locked on the being in the stasis pod. It was fully awake now. Its eyes glowed with blue light. Yavex whispered, terrified, "This is not a god. It's a soldier from a forgotten war." Ilara felt cold, and above her, the Cradle of Ash sent a warning. "Unidentified vessel detected. Size, colossal. Technology, unknown. Intentions, unknown." The arrival. The alien ship above Threxos wasn't like any ever seen. It had no engines. It made no sound. It simply appeared, like it had always been there. Even the Threxian fleet couldn't speak. Their scanners couldn't understand it. Their weapons locked, but refused to fire. And then, it spoke. Not with words, not with sound, but with thought. "One of our own has awakened. You are not prepared." A moment of terror, Alara stared at the being in the chamber. It stood up, tall, too tall. Its arms were shaped like weapons. Its chest pulsed with ancient power. Coral screamed into her helmet. "Its systems are rewriting themselves. I can't block it. It's taking control." The power in the vault surged. Screens cracked, machines exploded, and then the being turned its eyes to Alara and smiled. The fight they couldn't win above. The Cradle of Ash prepared for war, but its systems began shutting down. Something was hacking it, remotely, without touching it. The crew inside shouted, "Weapons offline! Engines not responding! It's disabling everything!" The old being walked toward Alara slowly, but not to attack. It was going to leave the vault, and rejoin its kind. Yavex fell to his knees. "We've made a terrible mistake." Ilara's last choice. She had one option, only one. Blow the vault, kill, everything, even herself. She turned to Yavex. "Can you stop this?" He shook his head. "This is older than war. Older than peace. We were never supposed to find this place." Ilara activated her final command. "Cradle of Ash, prepare self-destruct. Burn everything if I don't return." The being turned. once more, and finally spoke out loud. "You still don't understand, little human. You didn't wake me. I let you find me.